The previous video covered the greatest generation. Now let's expound on the silent generation 1928-1945. The silent generation is named for their perceived quiet conformity and reserved nature, shaped by growing up during the Great Depression and coming of age during or just after World War II. Sandwiched between the heroic greatest generation and the outspoken baby boomers, they're often characterized as cautious, hardworking, and civic-minded, prioritizing stability over rebellion. Below is a comprehensive exploration of their historical context, characteristics, work-centric values, cultural contributions, and legacy. Historical context. The silent generation was molded by a turbulent era that demanded adaptability and restraint. The Great Depression, 1929-1939, born during or shortly before the economic collapse, many experienced childhood poverty, food shortages, and family struggles, fostering frugality and risk aversion. World War II, 1939-1945. As children or teens, they witnessed the war's impact, rationing, air raid drills, and family members serving overseas. Those born in the early 1930s often served in the war's final years or in post-war occupations, as in Japan or Germany. Post-war prosperity, 1945-1960, came of age during the economic boom, benefiting from the GI Bill, suburban expansion, and stable job markets. This era reinforced their focus on security and conformity. Cold War McCarthyism, 1947-1950. The rise of anti-communist paranoia and nuclear fears encouraged political caution and social conservatism, contributing to their silent moniker. Early civil rights movement. The silent generation witnessed beginnings of racial integration, as in Brown versus Board of Education, though many were slow to embrace radical change. The following are some key characteristics for the silent generation. Conformity and caution. This generation lived in an era where questioning authority was risky, leading to a preference for fitting in over standing out. McCarthyism and corporate culture rewarded loyalty and discretion, earned the silent label from a 1951 Time magazine article describing them as less outspoken than predecessors, focusing on careers and families rather than protest. Frugality and stability. Depression-era scarcity instilled lifelong habits of saving, reusing, and avoiding debt. They valued secure jobs and predictable lifestyles, preferred incremental change over radical upheaval, unlike the idealistic boomers. Civic engagement. Strong sense of duty, participating in community organizations, unions, and churches. High voter turnout and trust in institutions marked their adulthood. The silent generation built on the greatest generation's legacy by strengthening post-war systems like Social Security and public education. Pragmatism, focus on practical goals, homeownership, steady careers, and raising families rather than chasing fame or revolution. Adapted to rapid technological shifts, as in television, early computers, while maintaining traditional values. Moderation, avoided extremes, balancing personal ambition with collective responsibility. They were less rebellious than the lost generation and less idealistic than boomers. Work-centric values. The silent generation's approach to work was defined by loyalty, discipline, and a desire for long-term security, making them highly work-centric in a stable, hierarchical system. Loyalty to employers. Often spent entire careers with one company, valuing pensions and benefits over job hopping. Employers, in turn, offered job security, unlike later eras of downsizing. Corporate culture emphasized teamwork and deference to authority, with company men as a common archetype. Strong work ethic. Work was a duty to provide for family and contribute to society. Long hours and dedication were expected, with less emphasis on work-life balance. Depression-era memories drove a never-take-a-job-for-granted mindset. Professionalism and hierarchy. Respected workplace structures, climbing ladders through seniority and reliability. They thrived in bureaucratic organizations, from corporations to government, dressed formally as in suits, hats, and adhered to workplace etiquette, reflecting a disciplined ethos. Diverse career paths, filled roles in booming post-war industries, manufacturing, finance, education, and early tech, as in IBM's rise. Many women worked as teachers, nurses, or secretaries, though often left the workforce after marriage. Veterans use the GI Bill to enter white-collar professions, expanding the middle class. Gender dynamics. Men dominated breadwinner roles, while women face pressure to prioritize homemaking. However, wartime necessity and post-war opportunities allowed some women to pursue careers, laying groundwork for later feminism. Cultural contributions. The silent generation produced influential figures and cultural shifts, often bridging traditional and modern sensibilities. Literature and arts. Writers like J.D. Salinger, The Catcher in the Rye, captured youthful alienation, foreshadowing boomer rebellion. James Baldwin, Go Tell on the Mountain, addressed race and identity, amplifying civil rights discourse. Poets like Sylvia Plath and Allen Ginsberg, born late in the cohort, pushed literary boundaries, blending silent restraint with boomer radicalism. Music and entertainment. Pioneer rock and roll, with icons like Elvis Presley, Chuck Berry, and Buddy Holly, revolutionizing music and youth culture. Embraced jazz and crooners, as in Frank Sinatra, while laying groundwork for the 1960s counterculture. Hollywood stars like Marilyn Monroe and James Dean embodied a mix of glamour and rebellion. Media and technology helped popularize television, working in early broadcasting or creating shows like I Love Lucy that defined 1950s culture. Contributed to early computing, as an ENIAC or electronic numerical integrator, and computer, the first programmable, general-purpose digital computer programmers, setting the stage for the digital age. Social norms reinforced suburban ideals, nuclear families, manicure lawns, but also produced early civil rights leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks, though sometimes grouped with the greatest generation. Social and political impact. Civil rights leadership produced key figures like Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and Thurgood Marshall, who challenged systemic racism, though many in the generation were slow to support integration. Economic and institutional growth built corporate giants, as in General Motors, IBM, and expanded public infrastructure, as in highways and schools. Their tax contributions funded the New Deal's legacy. Cold War influence supported anti-communist policies in the space race, with figures like astronaut John Glenn symbolizing their ambition. Gender and family upheld traditional roles but saw early feminist stirrings, as in Betty Friedan's The Feminine Mystique, though Friedan was born 1921. Their stable families produced a large boomer cohort. Challenges and criticisms. Conformist reputation. Criticized for passivity and reluctance to challenge authority, especially during McCarthyism or early civil rights struggles. Social conservatism. Many resisted racial integration, women's liberation, or cultural shifts, creating tension with boomers. Limited risk-taking. Their caution sometimes stifled innovation or bold activism, overshadowed by the greatest generation heroism or boomers' idealism. Economic disparities. While many benefited from post-war prosperity, minorities in rural communities often face exclusion from the middle-class boom. Modern perceptions and legacy. Underappreciated role, often overshadowed by the greatest generation's heroism or boomers' cultural revolutions, but their steady contributions built the modern middle class and stable institutions. Aging population. By 2025, the silent generation is in their late 70s to 90s, with many retired or passing away. Their values of frugality and civic duty still influence policy debates, as in Social Security. Cultural nostalgia. The 1950s, their prime era, is romanticized in media, as in Happy Days, but also critiqued for its conformity and inequalities. Here are some fun facts pertaining to the silent generation. The silent label was partly ironic. They produced vocal leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. and Elvis Presley, who were anything but quiet. Iconic figures include John Lennon, Sandra Day O'Connor, the first female Supreme Court Justice, and Neil Armstrong, first man on the moon. They were the first generation to grow up with widespread radio and early TV, shaping their media consumption. Their frugality inspired habits like saving aluminum foil or repairing appliances, which younger generations often find quaint. Here we will look at the work-centric values comparing the silent generation to other generations, the lost generation, 1883-1900, less work-centric, with a focus on creative or survival-driven work, and less loyalty to institutions, reflecting their disillusionment. The Greatest Generation, 1901-1927, shared a strong work ethic and employer loyalty, but were more overtly patriotic and tied work to national survival. The Silent Generation was quieter, focusing on personal stability. The Baby Boomers, 1946-1964. Boomers were ambitious but sought personal fulfillment and social change, contrasting with the Silent Generation's conformity and security-driven work values. The Silent Generation, born roughly between 1928 and 1945, came of age in the post-World War II era and contributed to technological and scientific breakthroughs during the mid-20th century. Here's a short list of their most impactful inventions: integrated circuit, Jack Kilby and Robert Noyce laser; Theodore Maiman oral contraceptive pill; developed by Frank Colton, Gregory Pincus, and others, video cassette recorder. Engineers like Charles Ginsberg, early Ampex models, and later Silent Generation teams at Sony and JVC perfected the VCR, global positioning system. Early concepts, pioneered by scientists like Ivan Getting and Bradford Parkinson. Here is a short list of some of the richest people from the Silent Generation: Warren Buffett, CEO of Berkshire Hathaway; Amancio Ortega, founder of Zara and Inditex; Rupert Murdoch, media mogul behind News Corp and Fox; Charles Katch, co-owner of Katch Industries; David Rockefeller, heir to the Rockefeller fortune. The Silent Generation produced writers who navigated the post-World War II era, addressing themes of conformity, identity, and social change during the Cold War and cultural shifts of the 1950s through the 1960s. Here's a short list of some of the most prominent literary figures from this generation and their key contributions. Toni Morrison, renowned for Beloved in Song, which won her the Nobel Prize. Philip Roth, known for Portnoy's Complaint and American Pastoral. Sylvia Plath, known for The Bell Jar. Gabriel Garcia Marquez, known for 100 Years of Solitude and Love in the Time of Cholera, which won him the Nobel Prize. John Updike, known for Rabbit, Run, and its sequels, along with The Witches of Eastwick. The Silent Generation produced musicians who shaped music during the post-World War II era, bridging jazz, rock, folk, and classical amid Cold War tensions and cultural shifts. Here's a short list of prominent musicians from this generation and their key contributions. Bob Dylan, a folk and rock icon, created Blow in the Wind and Like a Rolling Stone. Aretha Franklin, known as the Queen of Soul, responsible for songs like Respect and Chain of Fools. Miles Davis, a jazz innovator known for Kinda Blue and Bitches Brew. Nina Simone, known for Feeling Good and Mississippi Goddamn. Philip Glass, a minimalist composer with works like Einstein on the Beach and film scores like Koyaanisqatsi. Thank you for taking the time to view this video. If you like exploring topics that stay outside the typical subject matter, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button. And be sure to hit the notification bell for the next part covering the exploration of the generations over the past 150 years. In this part, we covered the Silent Generation. In our next video, we will cover the Baby Boomer generation. Look for links in the description for our YouTube channels, which explore other areas. Also, look at other videos on this site. Thank you.